What's up, LinkedIn community? This is Adam Conrad, founder and CXO of Great Recruiters. And I am joined here today on GR Live with Andy Decker from IK Hofmann. Andy is the CEO and was brought in there at the end of 2019 to help that organization grow. And today we just love to share that story. But first off, Andy, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Great to talk to you again, Adam.
Great speaking to you. And as we were just talking ahead, it sounds like 2024 is a continuation of success you guys had in 2023. So that's awesome to hear.
Sure. It's been, the last couple of years have each been our best year, which should be what it is. And we're excited to talk a little bit about how we got there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And today we're really going to be discussing the things that Andy put in place to help drive a great culture within IK Hofmann. And we'll talk about how he went about building that, the impact it's had on his business, and the effects that has on your internal employees and culture. So I'm really excited. Hey, before we really jump into it, I always like to ask, how did you get into the staffing industry? What's your origin story?
Sure, that's a great one. My background was in training and development, and I had been working with teams and individual leaders on performance improvement, team communication. I was the executive vice president of a company that was in Silicon Valley. So lots of teams, lots of leaders, lots of training. And what became my largest client was a really large staffing firm that had their headquarters there in Menlo Park. And my largest client became my employer, and I joined I sort of got tired of working with these teams and getting them super excited and then sending them off. I thought, maybe I'll join one of those teams, and that's what happened. So I joined that company in 2006, and I've loved every day of staffing since then.
That's awesome, man. And for those who don't know, can you give us a little insight into IK Hofmann, who you help in the industry, what your focus is?
Sure. So IK Hofmann was founded by Ingrid Hofmann in March of 1985. It's still a privately held, family-owned, woman-owned business. We're currently in 9 countries, 8 in Europe, and then here in the United States. We celebrated 15 years just a year and a half ago, so we're just over 16 years here in the U.S., and we worked in about 25 states last year. We do primarily what the organization started in, which was the light industrial side. We've changed that a little over the last four years, given my background. Primarily, we do about 80% of our business is light industrial, commercial, manufacturing, automotive, supply chain, logistics, things like that. And then another, 15%, 20% of that is on the professional side, HR, technology, accounting, and administrative positions.
Outstanding. And when you were brought in 2019, can you talk a little bit about the state of the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember telling a friend I was looking for a well-funded startup, and my timing was sort of in the U.S. It had sort of been a little bit of an afterthought, but I was very fortunate that about 6 months prior to my joining, Sonia Heinrich, the daughter of Miss Hofmann, was given the job of managing the U.S. operations. And one of the things she did was she brought me in about 6 months later. Complete support, complete family culture. Just needed some tweaks here and there. We didn't necessarily have our applicant tracking system how we needed it to work. It made it really difficult, and part of that led to, communication wasn't as good as it needed to be with our employees, and frankly, we had. Well, I'll say this. To me, I thought our net promoter score, I couldn't believe how low it was. Come to find out, it was twice the industry average, right? It was sitting around 40, and I thought, that's ridiculous. There's no way that can be our net promoter score. So that's what really sort of started me on the journey, started our partnership with Great Recruiters. And I'll say over the last 4 years, it's no coincidence. Our net promoter scores more than doubled, right? We've been fortunate enough the last couple of years to be in the mid to high 80s, and our revenues more than doubled in the same time period.
Which I might add, in addition to having a stellar online reputation, star ratings, I think 1,150 reviews, 4.7 star rating. You have then that internal metric that we help measure as well, which for those who don't know is net promoter score. And it's the question you always see is, how likely are you to recommend? And it's a scale of 1 to 10. 40 is good. 40 is good. 50 to 60 is getting into exceptional, world class. So to be at an 80 NPS, Andy, you've really done some amazing things in the organization, because that is higher than what you see even outside of our industry. So love to unpack that a little bit. One of the things you mentioned is your technology was a little out. What does your tech stack look like today?
Yeah, the difference was we had a very good tool, but it was disconnected. And so I remember early in my process, when I first joined, asking why, how, what do we do? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? I started the process with our business analyst, who has been a fantastic player in all of this evolution. And she started explaining the onboarding process. And there were 32 steps. Our recruiters had to put information in the front side, the back side, in the payroll tool. And so there were just things that were missed, right? And look, to be a 40 given that, first of all, when we got through the onboarding process, I said, I got to congratulate the company for ever getting anyone out. But that was just how it was set up at the time. And again, no fault of others. It was a really good tool. We didn't implement it in the way that we should have. So we had that going. Again, I think why our score was so good is at the core, we're a family-owned company, right? And when you have a person's name on the wall who's leading the organization and who starts with, our goal is to find people jobs. We start this business and we get to do this business because people let us represent them, not the other way around. They're not lucky that we place them out on a job. I'm excited every time someone chooses us in a marketplace, because there's lots of other people. And so that mindset you have in a family company, despite your tools, like you said, still a really good score, still almost twice the industry average. And then as we just sort of improved how we were doing and what we were doing, the growth of the score followed and the growth of the organization followed.
That's outstanding. And so when you came to the organization, you obviously saw some gaps, areas of opportunity for improvement. So what was the process you went through to kind of get where you were in 2019 to where you are today? And how did you build a strong work culture that is resulting in world-class service?
Sure. Well, it started with a lot of the people that were there, and they had long before me, people had bought into the idea of a family company, Ingrid Hofmann leading the way. They were there. They just needed some better tools. And so, like you said, it starts with, what do we need, people? You tell me. I haven't been here. You've all been here in the past. So we started with our tech stack. We went to a new ATS that was an all-in-one integrated solution, and they've been great partners with us, TempWorks, for many years now. We implemented that within about 8 months of when I had started with the organization, which worked out to be great timing given COVID. That allowed us to do everything remotely. So the timing was somewhat fortuitous that it happened. We partnered with you guys so that we could start to see better scores, get better feedback. And then, we've set goals for what we were going to do. And then we started following it. And we acknowledge when people succeed. When we do our quarterly all staff calls, we put our scores out there and we highlight the people that are leading the way. And we've just continued to do that. First, The other thing is we updated, we put in a lot of automation in the system that supports what the challenges are in staffing. I think if you ask 100 candidates that don't like their staffing firm, 95 of them are going to say it's because they don't communicate effectively. I put in my application. I don't hear from them. I don't know where I am in the process. I don't know if I got the job or not till I call them. And we just put a lot of tools in place that as we work them through the ATS, it communicates with them. It says, hey, great news. We've put the resume in front of the hiring manager of the job we spoke about. I'll let you know as soon as we hear from them. It shoots them a text. It shoots them an email. When someone starts, the other thing we did that I think was probably part of it is we said, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We said, we want to provide you world-class service. Here's the welcome email. Welcome to the team a couple days before you start, all the details of assignments. But hey, you're joining a 35-year-old family-owned organization that wants you to have world-class service. And if you don't, here's my phone number, here's my email, and call me. Call me on my cell phone. Call me, and we'll make sure that we make it right. And so that's what we've done.
And how do you define in IK Hofmann terms, what does world-class service mean to you?
Yeah, our goal is to stay above the 80 benchmark from our net promoter score. And it's to be above that 4.6, 4.7 from our ratings. And we see much more, and we're integrated with you in terms of getting surveys out throughout the entire process with our candidates and clients, but we also monitor our Google reviews. And if you go to one of our locations, we respond to them. We learn from them. The feedback is valuable. Many of the sort of things that some of the upgrades we've made to make it a better engagement experience and candidates experience comes from the employees themselves. I don't know. My team doesn't necessarily know what would make it better working out at XYZ company until the employee working out there says, hey, Andy, hey, Leon, hey, Romy, this is, it would be great if we could do this. And we've built a lot of our systems to accomplish that. So we use these reviews as a learning, not just a grade, but what do we need to do to make this a better experience and engagement journey for you in partnering with IK Hofmann USA?
Yeah, no, that's great. And there's a lot of different ways to get feedback. What was it about Great Recruiters that was the win for you, that you said, this is the company, this is the platform that we want to partner with to help us achieve that goal of getting that real-time feedback, driving the reviews? What did you see in the product that made you say, yes, this is it?
Yeah. So first of all, you're as motivated about providing great experiences for people as we are, right? And so that comes through in organizations. When you can feel that when you're working with people and partnering with them. The tool itself it fit perfectly. It's fantastic. It allows all kinds of different ways of measuring. It allows us to ask different questions. It allows us to sort of really get, overall scores, but really dig down and find out at a granular level what would make it better, what would lead to improvement, and what we're doing well. Measuring across the great traits is a fantastic way to look at it. And then again, as you mentioned, the net promoter score is another way to see how we're doing, not just against ourselves, but as you mentioned, that's something that, half the Fortune 500 is using. So we're not just playing against the staffing industry where the net promoter score is a 20 or a 30. And, we're comparing ourselves against some of the best companies in the world from the experience that we provide. And that's what we want to do. That's why we selected you guys. And
what is the result of creating a great experience? Like, creating a great experience is awesome. It makes people feel good. Recruiters get reviews, but what has been the business impact that you've seen by focusing on that experience, not just the candidate experience, but the client experience, the place talent experience? Where does the rubber meet the road from an ROI perspective for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You could, for many years, even prior to this job, net promoter score was something we watched. And Results, revenue, hours, they're all tied. If you go back to our 4 years, if you go back to 4 years ago and you chart out the revenue and you chart out our net promoter score, it was the same rise. When you do a good job with people, when you communicate with people, especially when you treat them with the respect they deserve, right? I've always sort of talked about that all the way through staffing. I had an experience very early on that made me realize, really, sometimes in staffing, we're the difference between roofs overhead and food on tables and things like that. And I never lost that from the very beginning. And so I've always said, we have to realize when someone comes into our office, no matter how many interviews you've done that day or how many times a candidate has called you, oftentimes people between work are in emotionally charged. It's an emotionally charged time. It could be somewhat of a time when you're vulnerable. And so we have to take every action with the idea of, this isn't just me having this same conversation about the orientation and the start process, but I'm helping someone find a job. And so we've always sort of said that, and we've always sort of lived that. And with that, what's happened? Referrals, and we're partnered through you with another referral source that works very well. And our referrals went through the roof. And why does that matter? We look back in 21 and 22, referrals were 80% less likely to fall off within 10 days. So we
say that again.
Sure.
When you have a referred candidate,
yes,
the likelihood of them staying on longer
they were 80% more likely. So we measure quality fills as starts that last more than 30 days. We have a goal of all starts lasting more than 30 days and less than 10% lasting less than 10 days. So that's really bad. We don't want to do that. That's not good for the client. So we're 80% more likely to get past that 10-day mark than if they're not referred. Right. We're also, our average length of assignment was 3 times as long with a referred candidate. Why? Right? Their friends telling them the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're coming into that assignment eyes wide open. Now, by the way, they've probably got a friend there, someone that they can talk to that helps them show them the ropes. They've got somebody, if their car breaks down or they have car trouble or flat tire, hey, can I get a ride to you with work? So our assignments, just in general, as our net promoter score has gone up, our assignment length has just continued to grow. We grew from 6 weeks to 8 weeks to now we're over 14 weeks last year. And so our length of assignment continues to grow. And some of these, we get lots of 1 and 2 day projects and week-long projects. So that number continues to grow despite that. And again, leading the way is referred candidates. But beyond that, it's candidates that like working for their organization. If you go and Google a lot of the big NPS scores in staffing, you'll see negative scores. That means the candidates working there because they need a job, but they don't want to be working there for that organization. They're working there so that they can get transferred over to the company long term, but they're doing it despite what they like. Right. If the candidate likes working through us for that company, you've got a happier, more engaged candidate, someone who's going to stay there a long period of time, someone who's going to do a better job and show up. And for the client, it's a huge win. For the candidate, they're being treated with this respect they deserve. For us, it helps us. They stay longer. They're less likely to quit. They're likely to refer more people. And with that, your business grows.
So the 2 big things that I heard you kind of say that you introduced when you started is, one, just getting the core tech stack working in a fashion that reduces the friction for your candidates, right? They want an easy process. They want it to be simple. And the other thing was putting a program in place with great recruiters to get real-time feedback down to your recruiter level from your candidates, clients, place talent. And so how has that impacted the culture? Like, I hear it from you from a leadership perspective. We're talking NPS, we're talking growth. That's awesome. But like, what has been the impact on your internal team as you've kind of focused on that world-class experience, how does that translate into the internal team cultures down to the individual?
Yeah, one, people tend to focus on the areas that you score and measure and reward. We make it a big part of what we do. It's one of the things we're most proud of. It's something that we say all the time. So, this weekend, we got a couple of reviews from you. I sent them out to the team, congratulating them. Everybody sees the email. Everybody likes to get their name in lights. Everybody likes to get the kudos email. And frankly, when some of them will see that are so positive, I mean, you'll see everybody in the organization responding back and congratulating people. So that just builds a desire to want to do that. The other thing that we've done is, we've tied it into such a way that it became more holistic, right? At first it was, let's provide a good experience when you're working on assignment. But then it became, and I think at that point, we probably still had a little bit of a disconnect between us and people who were working on engagements for us, right? And so it was, oh, you're temporary, you're person. No, right? I'm headquarters staff. The people in these offices are branch staff, and there are field staff. So I've got a pin on, wrong one. I've got a pin here that says 4 years. I've given out 3-year pins and 4-year pins that are exactly like mine to people who are out working at other companies for us. So we've treated them as an extension. And everybody wants to be part of that. Everybody wants to do it. What does that change when you start thinking about it's just not about the assignment? Starting in 2020, we said, you know what? We've got to do a little bit more. So we sent out an email to everybody. Hey, if you need help putting a meal on people's tables, on your table this Christmas, let us know. We'll take care of it for you. And so the first year, the COVID year, we actually had we had 100 people take advantage of that and say, yeah, I could use a little help. We even had some internal people take advantage of that. We've done that every year since. We had over 15% of our staff reach out in November. It was the end of November, beginning of December. And we had internal staff, some of whom had asked for assistance in 2020, saying, hey, I want to volunteer 10 meals. I want to donate 5 meals. I want to donate 3 meals. And so we've started thinking about it more holistically as how we do things with everybody, because then, and it's the right thing to do. It's what our founders' belief was. And oh, by the way, then we get to go and tell our clients, people like working for us, which means, again, they're going to stay longer. And, every time I do a presentation, why should I work with you? My candidates like working for me more than your employees probably like working for you. And that's hard to say most of the times, but I've yet to have been called on it. When we show people that slide with our net promoter score and our rankings, I've yet to have a potential client or client have better scores than we do. So it's a drum we bang all the time. It's something we're proud of. It's a reflection of who we are as an organization. And, when you're seeing people in Germany on the executive committee seeing your scores on our monthly call, and they know that, it just builds a desire to keep doing the right thing and to provide that world-class experience.
And you talked a lot about, I love it. It's, we work so hard to put somebody in an assignment, and unfortunately a lot of firms feel like their job's done at that point. And I love what you said. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're on one of our temp employees or internal employees, we're going to treat you the same. And that does make people feel good. And you talked about how that's improved your retention of your place talent. How has it impacted retention rate, engagement of your internal staff by creating that culture? Because I imagine people feel really proud about working there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've set goals each year for less and less turnover. And we continue to do that. We have a really good number. It can always get better, but we're really happy. It's funny. I'm in an office today, and through the transition when I was arriving, there were some people that went away, and a lot of them are back. It's like, man, we've heard what's changed, and we've heard what you're doing, and people tend to like working here. And that's, again, it's easy to lead a company when the founder says, we're in business to grow our business and to find more jobs and help more clients. But at the root of that, we're going to do the right thing for people. It's not hard to rally around that. And it's not hard to get people to buy into that concept.
Well, and you're reaping the results of putting that time, energy, and effort into it, because it is time, energy, and effort. It's an investment. It's an investment to continue taking care of people, and it sounds like that is completely helpful considering the growth that you've had. One of the things I want to hit on, culture is it's always great to get the positive, right? We could talk all day about what positive reviews mean for an organization, how it makes your people feel good, how it leads to referrals, how it leads to more business. But I think equally important is when you get a review that isn't as positive as you like. And I'm just curious, like, how do you handle that organizationally when there is a review that is less than what you would expect, as you kind of had really raised that bar very high?
Yeah, and again, you can go out there and see those, and we respond to them. First of all, hey, one, thank you for taking the time. I know this isn't always easy. Two, here's my phone number. Call me. Here's my email. I want to dig into this, and I want to learn, and I want to figure out what we can do differently. And as I said, there's a lot of improvements we've made in our processes, in our tech stack, in our benefits, that have come from, hey, do better. That's the result. It says do better. I did this and I didn't hear back. You know what? We need to set up some things in the system that, as almost like notifications. Goodness, I order a pizza. I get a push notification. Hey, we just put it in the oven. Hey, I get we just pulled it out of the oven. Hey, we're putting it in a car. But in staffing, firms don't fail to communicate effectively because they don't want to. They're just really busy. So we've got to help them do that, right? So if I go in here and the client says, yes, I want Adam to start, could I click that in the system? You get a text and an email. Adam, great news. The client does want you to start. Call me at the office immediately when you're available, and we'll figure out the start date and get you the rest of the paperwork. Now, I'll reach out and make a call as well. But when we're keeping them through that information all the way through the process, they love that. The other thing is, like you talked about, they go out there, they get something like 40 communications in the first 6 months working for us. And oftentimes it's emails from me and text messages from the recruiter that placed them. We found we were sending out emails for a while and that didn't work. When we started sending text messages saying you got an email, and we just do little things, right? Hey, and we don't send this 5-page email that tells you everything you need to know about ever working for us, right? It's bite size. Hey, this is what's important this week. It's the Wednesday of your first week of an assignment. Start thinking about getting your timesheet together. The next Monday, hey, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope the first week went well. Give us any feedback. Oh, by the way, on Wednesday, you'll see an email from our payroll manager with how many hours were approved to make sure it lines up with what you submitted. And if it doesn't, let us know. We'll fix it before Friday. And so just little pieces all the way through the experience. That's been the key, just constant and relevant communication all the way through.
To me, it's a consistent open door and an invite to say, let us know. Like, we want to make this great for you. We want to make this an awesome experience for you. And you have to, sometimes people forget, they get busy, but when you're constantly in front of them saying, hey, we want to know, the door's open, it's not about them responding every single time. It's about them having peace of mind that they understand that they can respond. If there is an issue, you have a team behind you. And that's a huge investment. We had the firm I ran, we had a lot of people focus on that onboarding. Our onboarding was probably 20% of our onboarding and acclimation process. We realized that the critical stuff wasn't as much as the getting the paperwork in. It's all the stuff that happens afterwards,
right?
Like that they're not alone, that they're out there, that they have communication, all those different touch points. And we had it for 90 because we realized that in the first 90 days, that was when somebody may make a decision that I'm going to stay or I'm going to go.
Sure.
And so for every company, depending on the duration of your assignment, that can change. Uh, but I think when you said you've increased now to 14 weeks through that process as well, right? By giving them those
Correct.
touch points. That's
Correct.
amazing.
Well, and
That's
like you said, at 90 days, hey, what do you wish you had known when you were starting here? And at
mm,
6 months, what do you wish you had known when you were starting? And we make lots of tweaks. I mean, lots of the improvements come from the people the ideas for improvements are coming from the people who are out there living it every day. And that's how it should be. So we've got to take the good with the bad. The bad is really just opportunities to do better. And the good is great. We're doing it. And let's see how we can keep doing it better.
that's awesome. The what I loved about you simplified, like, culture was based on the experience. You said, and so many companies say we want to create a great experience. The devil's in the detail, and it's in the intention, and it's in the execution, and it's in the action of actually doing something about it. And so, kudos to you and what you've done. And we're just happy to be part of that. But we're just a platform. We're a platform that if it's not driven by leadership and leaders like yourself, it's just another tool. I love what you've done with taking that feedback, not just down to your town halls. And, I love that when you get that review, you're emailing out, like, that goes so far for your internal, but then using that information. We talked a lot about candidate referral. I'm just curious, how has this impacted your client growth?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's when you can go to clients, because that's especially when we were looking at a shortage, right? And you can't find candidates. Miss Client, we're seeing 100 referrals a week. We're seeing this, a month. And so not only are we able to find candidates through our traditional methods, but we're finding candidates who are being referred by the people that work at your facility. And again, we can show them those stats and say, hey, they're more likely to stay. They'll stay 3 times as long. And so it's been a big part of the client growth when you can produce candidates when maybe others couldn't, when it was really tighter in certain markets. The other thing is we went with a lot of clients to sites all over the US, and we didn't have traditional recruiting efforts at that time, right? We had never been there. Hey, we're going to be in Little Rock in 2 weeks, and we need 70 people. Great. We find the first 10. I use Little Rock as an example. We had a lady that hadn't even started, went through the experience to be onboarded, and then was going to be starting in a week. And we had something like 15 referrals to her before she even got started on the job. And so that's the other side of it. Hey, we can ramp up really quickly, not only through traditional recruiting efforts, but through referral efforts.
Yeah. And how has it helped with your new client expansion? Because I got to imagine, every firm's looking to differentiate, right? Every firm's looking for a way to differentiate them. Why different? And how do you use that focus on candidate experience to help you go gain new client business?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And we approach it as, we're here to figure out if we would be a good partner for you as a client, and if you would be a good partner for us. And if you want to know why you're going to work with us, it's because we can find candidates. And we're going to treat them really well. I think I shared with you in December our slide. I think it's slide number 4 of our traditional why work with, when a client says, hey, we want to see who you guys are. Slide 4 is, compare our results to the industry. Our candidates are going to want to stay with us. And here's why. When you see these, and look, we touch a lot of people, and you can find candidates that will say, hey, I didn't have a great experience. And I hate that it happens, but it does. But we'll say sorry. Go out there and look at those reviews. I apologize when we mess up, but on average, through the scores, as you talk about, they like working for us a little bit more than they like working for lots of other people. And we tell the clients that they're going to stay through us. We're not going to be the reason that they leave your job, which sometimes is the case. So we use it quite a bit. Like you said, 1,000 reviews, 474. That's not me saying we're pretty good at it. That's people who are working for us saying we're pretty good at it.
It's a lot of people saying they're really good at it. And you hit up, it's not about being perfect. nothing is perfect in this world. Human beings aren't perfect. It's about being persistent in that pursuit of creating the great experience. So when you do slip up, I'd rather have you know so you can help make the situation better. We can't make everybody happy. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to give everybody a voice, to listen to that voice, take action on that voice, measure that voice, and help it drive your organization forward and help it promote your brand to your candidates, your clients. And so, Andy, we're just on time, man. We could keep going on this. I just love, people say, well, who's a good fit for great recruiters? And what I've realized, it's organizations that have leaders like you. If leadership isn't invested in more than just saying they want to create a great experience, it's being invested in not just saying it, but it's doing it and bringing it into a core piece of the culture. So really kudos to what you've accomplished over the last 4 years. I can only imagine what the next 4 years are going to look like for you guys. But as we wrap this up, give me your 3 biggest takeaways. That if you're talking to other leaders out there that might be thinking about their culture and what they can do, what are the 3 biggest things they can start doing today?
Yeah, I think one is you really have to measure it. Let's see where I really am, and set goals for where you want to be, and put that information out there. And not that it's a nice, it's just as important as the revenue, because the revenue is going to follow these scores. If the people like working for you, your company will grow. So measure it and start using it. Ingrain it into the day-to-day, and start to shape your actions, as we talked about earlier. Put systems in place, put processes in place that support what it is that you need to do as you identify shortcomings and strengths. And then the other thing is be open to the idea that there are things that you can do better. And those bad reviews you get, this person was mad about this or that. You know what? No, it's okay. They're right in their opinion. Let's see what we can learn from it. And let's see how we can do better the next time, and be committed and open to doing that.
That's awesome. I usually have a recap, but quite honestly, I think that's perfect. Measure where you're at and where you want to be, ingrain it into your day-to-day operations, processes, conversations, and be open that you can do better. Yep. Nobody's perfect, and embrace the feedback, embrace it as an organization. Andy, this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time, and just wish you continued success here in 2024, and just appreciate you being part of our great recruiter community. And I just wish you all the best. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great. It's great being here. As we talked about prior, it's been great partnering with you guys. You've been a big part of how we've grown and why we've grown, and look forward to continuing to succeed working with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, LinkedIn community, for tuning in. And Andy, we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. And that's a wrap.
All right.